Hello! Welcome to part 2 of my review of the fairly OddParents video game called Breakin. So as I said last time in part 1, all of the best levels of the game, in my opinion, are all found in Timmy's room and in his attached bathroom. So, because I already covered those levels, all that remains are the levels that don't really interest me. Hopefully my thoughts on these levels though will able to keep your attention. So with that, let's look at the next level. So let's start with the time travel level. For this level we get to travel to 3 places. We get to travel to King Arthur Land, or for those of you who are historically inclined, medieval Great Britain. We get to travel to ancient Egypt, and lastly, we get to travel to ancient Greece. The reason why we have to travel to these location time periods is because Timmy makes fun of Vicky's answers for her history homework, and she then wishes that we could see history like the way she wrote it. Now, from the way I described the level, it seems that this could be something good, but in actuality, it's not. So at King Arthur Land, or again, medieval Great Britain, Vicky's version of history made it so that Arthur doesn't pull Excalibur from the stone. In the level we have to avoid knights, grapple over objects, and push buttons. Eventually we get to pull Excalibur out of the stone ourselves, and pulling out the sword wasn't too hard for me when I was recording the gameplay for this review, but when I was a kid, the task was impossible. I remember constantly trying many times to pull the sword out, but I would only get tired and fail. However, now that I'm an adult, I'm used to pressing buttons because I got good, and I was able to get this done on my first try. Also, because Timmy pulled the sword out, it would make him the king, but in order to preserve history and all, Timmy disguises himself as Arthur when he pulls it out, and then he just gives the sword to the guy. What's funny here is that I think that the writers realize that if Arthur accepts the sword from Timmy, this might be a little controversial. This is because King Arthur, although believed by many scholars to be a mythological hero and not a historical hero, he's still deeply rooted in English culture. So having a video game, although completely fictitious, say, hey, in our story, King Arthur doesn't pull the sword out, somebody else does, and he gives it to him. So technically, Arthur isn't really the true king, he's a false hero, and even worse, he doesn't even have any moral qualms about what he's doing either. So if I'm right about this, I think that the writers decided to have this line in the conversation. The line says that if Arthur takes the sword back to the stone and pulls it out again in front of people, they will believe that he is the true king of the Britons. So after fixing history in King Arthur Land, we next go to Tatooine. In Vicky's homework, she wrote down that the pyramids in ancient Egypt were cube-shaped instead of pyramid-shaped. How anyone could be this dumb? I don't know, but this is what she believed, and therefore, we need to fix it. In this section there are mummies, some buff dudes, and some blades to avoid, but the only thing really notable about this section is this one kick-ass song. So after fixing the pyramids, we then go to Kratos' world. So in ancient Greece, Vicky changed it so that the Greeks hated sports. So, in order to fix the timeline, we're going to disgrace the food-loving statues of this new timeline's culture. So after that, when we fix all of Vicky's changes, we return back to our time, but right before Vicky made the wish that sent us back in the first place. So this time, Timmy makes sure to not make the mistake of knocking on her stupidity too much, and now we aren't sent back in time again. So the next level we'll look at is the dog level. In this level, Vicky turns us into a dog, and we are then captured and taken to the mall. At the mall, we have to escape a pet store, avoid Tootie and her creepy face, and navigate on platforms. It doesn't make any sense why a mall would be designed this way, or even how it could, but it is. Towards the end of the level, we have to dig through plants to get to the next area, and every time you dig, you have to stop and wait for this animation to be completed. You can't press a button to skip it, and you will have to do this 7 times. So the dog level is okay, but it's not something special, nor anything I would really want to do again. The school level, however, does have some things going for it. In that level, there are these anti-fairies that are making unlucky things happen to us. These things include living on a banana peel, falling books, hungry trash cans, and wrecking balls. To stop these guys from trying to kill us, we have to capture them. The first 2 are pretty easy, but the third one is where I became enraged. For the third anti-fairy, like the other anti-fairies, you gotta keep the cursor toward the center and away from the end corners while you're capturing them. While you're struggling with this too, you will also have to jump over books. Doing both of these things is infuriating. I failed many times at this until I finally figured out a way for me to do it. So, despite having an entire screen to look at, what you really should be doing is focusing only on this bar. When you see in your periphery the books in front of you, try your best to jump over them. You might fail a lot until you get the groove of things, but once you do, it's finally over. Also, because we're at school, we encounter Timmy's evil teacher, Crocker, that wants to prove the existence of fairies. He'll be prowling around and exiting out of doors and lockers, and for some reason, him seeing us is a bad idea, and he'll give us detention.
Detention forever!
So the reason given is that we don't want Crocker seeing Timmy's fairies as we collect wish stars, but really, all that needs to be done is that Cosmo and Wanda just don't appear out of thin air. Also, it doesn't make any sense why Crocker would give us detention when he supposedly catches us. We're not skipping class or anything, we're not doing anything wrong, we're just at school on a Saturday. There is legitimately no reason why this guy can give us detention. It doesn't make any sense. Besides that, the only other notable thing about the school level is that we get to see Crocker's secret underground lair and destroy his private property. So it's not cool that Crocker is giving out detentions like candy, but it's also not cool to destroy somebody's car. Call me whatever you want, but I don't really see how these two punishments equate each other. Also, when Crocker's car blows up, it engulfs Crocker in flames. Timmy really could have killed this guy, and Timmy doesn't give a shit at all. Again, are you sure that this kid really needs fairy godparents? Alright, so we have one more level. So in this level, aliens appear and they attack the city of Dimsdale. For the first part of this level, we have to navigate through the destruction caused by the aliens and through people's homes. There's also one house that you have to go into to capture a star, and this house is small and there's nothing in it. For me, this feels kinda lazy. The first part of the level is kinda boring too, but then we get to go on a spaceship and shoot pillows at aliens. At the end of the level, you have to do these tests that are incredibly easy, and now that we have completed them, we have all of the pages of the rules. Except for one. Alright, so I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. Nowhere in the game itself does it explain why we need to collect the separate pages, instead of the entire book that Vicky stole. And also, nowhere in the game itself do we see a representation of those pages. Every time I finished the level, there wasn't anything that indicated what amount of pages I obtained, and neither did I see any of those pages in the level itself. If it explains it in the game manual, that's one thing, but I don't have the manual. I have to rely on the game itself, and I'm not finding any answers. So what I think would happen is that the writers couldn't really figure out how to explain it, and guess what? I can't figure it out either. So what I think what happened is that they decided to just ignore it, which will let the writers be more creative, but this now diminishes the journey every step of the way, because now a central part of the story doesn't make any sense. Alright, so after ranting about that, let's take a look at the ultimate challenge. So, because we're missing a single page of the rules, we have to face Vicky in combat and make her say, "I wish I never took the book from Timmy." To make her do this, we have to make her step on these speech tiles in the correct order. Oh, by the way, in the challenge, Vicky is going to be a fire-breathing dragon. But why?
To ensure this is the ultimate challenge!
Okay. So making Vicky press the buttons isn't too difficult. You just have to avoid her fire attack, prevent yourself from falling into lava, and then stand on the button you want her to press on as she starts flying towards you. Each button also has a picture to represent what will be said, and the only annoyance is that I thought that this button was the I wish button, but it's really a Snark brand Magic Wand's product placement.
Snark brand Magic Wand!
Once we get Vicky to wish that she never took the book away, we have finally beaten the game. We get some cake, and everyone awkwardly laughs.
Why am I laughing?
So the Fairly OddParents video game called Breakin the Rules is a fun game. It has a lot of fun levels, as well as a lot of other levels that I would describe as uninteresting. In my opinion, the weakest aspect of the game is the second half, when you finally get out of Timmy's room. The levels outside of Timmy's room just don't have that wow factor for me, and it's a shame since all the levels within his room and his bathroom are pretty damn good. My thoughts are that if you like the TV show, then you're probably going to like the game. However, if you have no attachments to the TV show, then I don't know. Maybe. There's a lot about this game that I like, and there's a lot that I don't like, but overall I lean towards liking it. And if you're interested in this game too, check it out. So with that, that ends my review of this video game. Thank you for watching. See ya.